You could be eating fresh, homegrown veggies all winter long. Today, I will share with you 10 cold hardy crops that will feed you through the winter. There's nothing like going out to your garden midwinter and grabbing some fresh greens when you really need them. A few of the crops I will get into today do best if you have a covering over them. Then when the snow comes, you can brush it off, reach in and pick some of the stuff. But some of the veggies that I will share with you today are so cold hardy, they can grow all winter with no covering at all. The first crop that will feed you through the winter is kale. This one is always a staple in my garden. Probably my favorite overall variety of kale is the dazzling blue. It tastes delicious and it looks so beautiful. I love kale because it's a biennial, which means it has a 2-year life cycle. So in the summer heat, it won't bolt and go to seed like something like your lettuce will. I love dazzling blue, but it's not the most cold hardy variety. A variety like the red Russian kale, which you see right here, this one is way more cold hardy. Also, the scarlet kale back here, this one's super cold hardy as well. I have found that some of these varieties, especially the Russian varieties like the red Russian kale and the white Russian kale, these will grow all winter long without even having a covering. These plants can survive temperatures down to like 5 degrees Fahrenheit. Another cool thing about kale is when the frost comes, they'll actually get sweeter and less bitter. So they actually, in my opinion, are better to grow in the colder seasons because they taste so dang good. To help extend the life of your plants and allow them to go deeper into the season, you want to make sure you come by before the really cold weather comes and put some mulch around your plants. I'm using some diced leaf mulch right here. You can also use wood chips. This will help insulate the soil and protect the roots. By doing this, you'll help aid these plants in growth deeper into that season, and you'll be able to eat fresh food all winter long. The next winter veggie is this one right here, red veined sorrel. This super cold hardy perennial will thrive in the winter garden all season long with no covering. A little bit of frost, a little bit of snow won't damage this thing at all. In the winter, it starts to slow down in the growth a little bit, just because there's less light. But come spring, this thing just jumps back into growth and will kick out so much food. I had some red veined sorrel that I grew last winter. It overwintered, then spring came and it just produced so much sorrel. It was unbelievable. It has a beautiful color to it. It's a super easy plant to grow. Overall, the flavor isn't the best, but because it's so cold hardy, so easy to grow, it's really a good one to have in the garden. I have read that this thing can survive temperatures down to like -20 or -30 degrees Fahrenheit. I've never been able to test that because it doesn't get that cold here. When it comes down to it, this red veined sorrel, not only does it look beautiful, not only is it incredibly cold hardy, but it's one of those you need to get in the ground so you can be growing this thing all winter long. Another veggie that will feed you through the winter is lettuce. This fast-growing annual isn't as cold hardy as something like your kale would be. Typically, your lettuce can survive temperatures down to like 20 degrees Fahrenheit without a covering, but if you get a row cover like this and throw it over your Vego raised bed, that's what I like to do, then your lettuce can survive temperatures down to like 15 degrees Fahrenheit. When it comes to lettuce and all other plants, they will be cold hardier when they're established in older plants like this. You see this is well grown, compared to something like you see right here. Your seedlings aren't going to be as cold hardy as fully established plants. So it's important to have your plants established and grown before the really cold weather comes. If you're planting your lettuce around this time right now, you could plant it denser than you would in the spring or the early fall because things are just going to be growing a lot slower as the sun drops lower and the weather gets much cooler. Another thing you can do is if you don't want to use season extension methods, but you still want to grow deeper into the season, is you could plant lettuce in a pot like you see right here. Then when the really heavy frosts come, you could bring them into a greenhouse or into a spot where there's like a south-facing window where the plants get a lot of light. This way you could try to extend your season without having to use some of those season extension methods on your raised beds. The fourth crop that will feed you through the winter is this one right here, Tatsoi. This is a super cold hardy green, one of the most cold hardy ones that I grow. This thing will continue to just kick out food all winter long in zone 7A here with no covering. You'll be able to like look out during the winter. Through the snow, you'll see the Tatsoi peeking through and still growing. I also grow this in the spring sometimes, and it does relatively well in the spring. The only thing is once that summer heat comes, it bolts because it doesn't like the heat at all. Tatsoi, if you come in here, it has a sweet, mild flavor to it. It grows in this beautiful rosette shape. It's packed with vitamin C, and this thing can withstand temperatures down to like 10 degrees Fahrenheit. We got Tuck, the young king, here with us. He told me to talk about one of his favorite veggies, and we'll mention it as a bonus one, carrots. Let's grab him one. So when it comes to your carrots, you could plant these in the fall and then leave them in the ground into the winter. They'll last in the winter for a long period of time. You can see I got a lot of carrots planted here for Tuck. We'll pull one out for him. So these will last deep into the winter, and they actually get sweeter as the weather gets cooler. So when it starts to get cold out, it'll bring the sugars up into the carrots. These sugars act as like a natural antifreeze. We'll let Tuck snack on this, and it helps the carrots actually survive some of those really cold temperatures. You want to make sure you pull your carrots out before the ground completely freezes though. If you don't, the carrots could get really mushy. So it's important to go out there and make sure you put a mulch down around your carrots. This will help insulate the soil and keep those roots like preserved. This way you can go out late into the winter, grab some fresh carrots. This guy is happy we got a bunch of carrots planted for him. He's been working hard out here. Make sure you spam some hearts down low for the young king. He loves snacking on his fresh carrots. Right, boy? It's a little late to plant a new round of carrots now. Just make sure if you don't have any planted now, next year, you're thinking even in the fall, you're thinking winter, how you can store some food in the ground that you can eat super late into the season. The fifth cold hardy veggie to feed you through the winter is spinach, and not just any variety of spinach, but a cold hardy variety like this one right here, the giant winter spinach. When it comes to growing plants through the winter, not only do you want to choose the right kind of plant that's cold hardy, but you also want to choose the right variety. That's important. So a variety like the giant winter spinach or the winter Bloomsdale spinach, those are bred for their cold tolerance. But in the spring, I'll plant varieties like the Avon spinach. This one is really good because it's bred to be more resistant to bolting, so it won't just go to seed when some of the heat comes. So make sure when you're growing your veggies, it's not just the kind, it's also the variety. A variety like this can withstand temperatures down to like 15 degrees Fahrenheit. So just because the snow comes, that doesn't mean it's the end of your spinach. It may stop growing, but it will still be out there under the snow, and you'll see it in the spring start to grow a little bit more. The next crop is Swiss chard. This nutrient-dense green is one that Bill Mollison, one of my gardening heroes, says that North Americans just don't plant enough. A cool thing about this plant is it's so easy to grow. It's one of those plant it and forget about it crops. That's what I call it. I planted this one. If you come down here, you can see how old it is, how thick the stem is. I planted this one in spring. It grew spring, it grew summer, it's gonna grow through the fall and deep into the winter. And this thing could actually grow all winter long if we have a mild winter here. It can survive temperatures down to like 15 degrees Fahrenheit without a covering. Another great thing about this plant is it doesn't mind growing in partial shade. So as the days get shorter, the sun drops lower, a lot of plants will grow slower, but this one can continue to grow well. And you can stick this in a spot in your garden that doesn't get that much light. It will continue to grow, continue to thrive. Overall, an incredible plant and does really well in the cold also. The seventh crop is this one right here, Claytonia, also known as miner's lettuce. It has a nice soft texture to it and a lemony flavor. This one is really cold hardy, down to like 10 degrees Fahrenheit. It's an ideal for a winter garden because it will continue to grow in low amounts of light and in cold temperatures. Claytonia is another one that will usually grow in my garden all winter long with no covering. This thing will also reseed itself really heavily in the spring, which can be a good thing if you wanted to. If you don't want it to reseed itself, just make sure in the spring when you see this thing really start to flower heavily that you go out there and cut it back so it doesn't spread throughout like your whole entire garden, unless you want that to happen. The eighth crop is Arugula. This nutty flavored green usually bolts early in the spring and summer for me, so it's ideal to grow it into the winter because it's relatively cold hardy, especially if you grow a variety like this one, the ice bred Arugula. Just like cold hardy varieties of lettuce, this can usually survive temperatures down to about 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Another thing about Arugula is it'll grow great in a pot. as you can see, just like this. It's a great addition to some of those winter salads. It adds that nice, nutty kind of flavor to it. And I've grown arugula deep into the winter. It can survive a light frost, and overall, it's a necessity for any winter garden. The 9th crop that will feed you through the winter are mustard greens. These are cold hardy. I'm growing a few different varieties, like you see right here, the Japanese giant red for its beautiful color, and it's fast growing. I'm also growing this one right here, a super cool and unique one. This is the wasabina leaf mustard. It's said to have like a similar taste, and it does, to wasabi, and it's got a really cool frill to the leaves like that. I think it looks just absolutely beautiful. Mustard greens can survive temperatures down to like 15 degrees Fahrenheit. And just like kale, when it starts to get cold out and those frost comes, they will actually get sweeter and they'll get less bitter. So these are best and most ideal growing them in fall and into winter. That's when they'll taste the best. That's when they thrive. And as you can see, mustard greens are great ones you can grow in containers too. Overall, you gotta get them planted. The 10th crop that will feed you through the winter, I'm going to combine two together. I'm talking about parsley, as you see right here, and also cilantro over here. Let's start out with cilantro. Cilantro is a great herb. It's relatively cold hardy. It can survive temperatures down to like 20 degrees Fahrenheit. You can see how beautiful this is growing. It has such a good flavor to it. When it comes to your parsley over here, swing around. The parsley is more cold hardy than that one. This can survive temperatures down to like 15 degrees Fahrenheit, even 10 degrees Fahrenheit sometimes. So you want to have these growing in your winter garden. Another thing that I suggest you do is that you plant both parsley, like you see right here, and also cilantro in containers. The reason for this is, say it gets really cold out and heavy frost comes, the temperatures really drop low. You want to make sure you have these growing in containers so you could bring these inside and grow them in a south-facing window all winter long, and just grab those fresh herbs and have them just like right in the kitchen if possible. Bill Mollison used to say, when it comes to your herbs, if you have to get your slippers wet to go out to find them, then they're too far. So when you can grow herbs like this, just in a south-facing window and they thrive, they're great things to plant in pots now. This way, when winter comes, they'll already be thriving and you can grab some fresh herbs. Me and Tuck want to share a few more bonus crops before we let you grow. The first one is this one right here. This is Yukina Savoy, similar to your Tatsoi, but a little more upright. Look how beautiful it is too, and it has the crinkling on the leaves. I just love it. This one is also called the snow vegetable. It's really cold hardy, down to like 10 degrees Fahrenheit. I think it's a beautiful looking green, and it has a really nice flavor to it as well. Then right here, we also have Mizuna. Look how cool this looks. Similar to your mustard greens, with very similar tolerance to the cold, about 15 degrees Fahrenheit it can withstand. It's got a spicy flavor to it, but it's not as like spicy and peppery as your mustard greens are. They grow really prolifically, and another great addition to a winter garden. There's one other one that's super cold hardy, the Mâche. I don't have any of that growing here. Also called corn salad sometimes. That is cold hardy down to I think like 10 degrees Fahrenheit or even less sometimes. I don't have it growing. It's not my favorite winter one to grow, but it is one you could plant in the ground if you want to try to grow that through the winter. Overall, it's not just, as you've seen, about getting only cold hardy kinds of plants. There are a few other things you need to take into account. One is variety selection. You want to get the cold hardiest variety within the kind of plant that you're growing. Another thing is using coverings, like a row covering or even like a hinged hoop house like I use. This will help extend your season. And another thing that can't go overlooked is timing. You want to make sure your plants are mature. If you have very young plants that either just got transplanted or they're young seedlings, those aren't going to be as cold hardy as something like a fully established plant will be. So make sure you time your planting so that when the really cold weather comes, you have plants that can withstand that cold. Overall, me and Tuck had a blast out here. That's why it's time to say, that's today's video, growers. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you got something out of it. Me and Tuck hope that you try to grow some of this stuff through the winter. It's like, even if you don't get an insane amount of food from it, having these fresh greens in the winter, they're like boosts of so many essential vitamins and nutrients. When you really are craving them in the winter, there's nothing better, truly, than going out to your garden and grabbing some of it fresh. It's truly a treat. And that's a lot of the stuff that we have planted. You'll notice we're mainly focused on the winter. We still have some fall stuff like some cauliflower, some cabbages that will head up before the winter comes. But overall, we're thinking winter. We're thinking about how we can just eat so late in the season. Me and Tuck want to also see if there's some cold hardy veggies that you think we missed, that you guys grow, that we should try growing next year, because we just love growing deep into the winter when it's like it can almost become like, a letdown when stuff's dying, things are dormant. But when you actually have stuff growing, I'm telling you, it makes all the difference. It makes going outside fun. And we really suggest that you try to get some stuff growing. It's truly a blast. And it's fun to go against what people would think. Like, you're growing stuff in the winter? Yeah, we never stop growing stuff. That's just how we do it over at Team Grow. Me and Tuck also wanted to send a thank you to one of our new channel members, Carol Valdez. Thanks for being a part of Team Grow. Thanks for having your hand in everything we're doing out here. Check out how beautiful the plants are. Let's see if Tuck wants another snack. This guy's been out here working hard the whole time. He usually likes snacking on these greens. Boyo. They're full of water. He loves them so much. And if you guys love seeing Tuck in the videos, just spam some hearts down low. This guy is he's the best little garden helper, and we know that things are good when he snacks on them. We only like eating things in the garden if they're Tuck approved. James and Tuck will be back to you again real soon. We